And aides to former Vice President Mike Pence told the House January 6th committee Thursday that the conservative lawyer John Eastman pressured Pence to reject certification of the 2020 election. But the former vice president refused and repeatedly told the former President Trump the actions were illegal. Committee Chairman Benny Thompson applauded Pence for resisting the pressure. Well, I'm joined now by William Banks. He's a professor of law emeritus at Syracuse University. Thanks for joining us here. Professor Banks, part of Thursday's hearing focused on attorney John Eastman. I want to talk about that for a second. He insisted that Vice President Mike Pence had the power to overturn the election. Now, in that insistence and that memo that he wrote, were any laws broken?
Well, I think Eastman revealed through Mr. Pence's counsel that he knew full well that Pence did not have the legal authority to refuse to certify the election. So he attempted to interfere with the execution of a federal official, the Vice President of the United States, through a dubious legal theory that he himself knew not to be valid. As we know, he also then went on to seek a pardon on the supposed list that former President Trump was keeping, so he knew he was in hot water.
Right. That's pretty revealing when you ask for a pardon. CBS News, by the way, has confirmed that Ginny Thomas, she's the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, she'd been in contact with John Eastman. So what's your take on that? Any legal issues there?
Well, there may be. I mean, we also know, of course, that Mr. Eastman used to clerk in the Supreme Court for Justice Clarence Thomas, Ginny Thomas's husband, and the whole thing is a little unseemly that she is acting in such a partisan fashion. I'm not sure that now the committee says they would like to talk with Ginny Thomas. I'm not sure that she herself is in legal hot water, but she can certainly amplify the case against Mr. Eastman, who I think is in some legal jeopardy here. I think it was wholly inappropriate for Ginny Thomas to act as she did, but as we've learned, there are no rules in the Supreme Court that forbid family members of sitting justices from engaging in political activity, and so she just went about her business as she chose to.
Sounds like the family connection runs deep there. The committee, seems to be divided on sending criminal referrals right now to the Department of Justice. So do you think we'll see any prosecutions here?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I think, it's important for your viewers to realize that it's not up to Congress to decide whether or not criminal cases are brought. It is up to the Justice Department. The Justice Department could either decide to act on its own. They could decide to wait for congressional referrals and evaluate those referrals, or they could simply decide not to initiate prosecutions in several of these instances that are the focus of the hearing. I think they'll probably wait until the fall when the hearings are over. They will probably review all the testimony that's coming over in massive amounts from the committee, and then they'll make their own determination. I guess if I were betting, I would bet against prosecutions of the high-ranking officials. I think they're tough cases to prove. Proving the obstruction count requires an intention to violate the law. You could argue that former President Trump really believed the dubious theory that the election had been stolen from him, so that he couldn't have intended to violate the obstruction law.
That makes sense. Now, we've had a few hearings now, 3 hearings. The case is being laid out. So when you step back and look at the totality of what the panel's revealed so far, what stands out the most to you?
What stands out to me most is that the committee, which is, after all, a bipartisan committee, there are 2 Republican members of the House committee, they've done a really good job of organizing their activities. There's a narrative here. It's flown across the airwaves with barely a mistake at all. They've been composed, they've been articulate, they've been systematic, and they're really trying to create a historical record. And I think, if nothing else, the process and the investment in this investigation is worth its weight in the historical value that their findings will have for us down the road.
William Banks, he's a professor of law emeritus at Syracuse University. Thanks for your insight today.
You bet.